in it because all here we are all the garden is water, so we will continue watering it. Yeah, we will continue watering it.
And the process, where will you take it?
You know, this we are not doing this for the president. We are doing it for ourselves, because all the proceeds from this farm goes back to the people. So you know, we are doing it for ourselves. We are not doing for the president, because all the proceeds here, anywhere people do work, all the proceeds go back to the people.
Binta Bojang of Lamin Sanchaba said every year they mobilize their group to come to this farm to provide assistance to the efforts to increase in the Gambia's food self-sufficiency drive. For her part, Fatu Cham from Kunkujang Jataya said she never know how to farm, but answering the call to Eat What We Grow initiative by President Jammeh motivated her to render assistance on this farm. The president of the Women Association in Banjulinding, Khadija Sambu, said it is their duty as residents of the area to take the lead in the progress of the farm. The community of Banjulinding recognized the development-oriented efforts of President Jammeh, he said, and come November elections, he vows they will pay his great leadership by voting massively for him, Khadija concluded. This group are the latest batch of volunteers that answered President Jammeh's Back to the Land call, and many more are vowing to replicate their efforts. For Grts News, I am Deiko Mademba.
The National Environment Agency, NEA, is pleased to inform the general public that the next Operation Clean the Nation shall be held on Saturday, 29 October 2011 throughout the country. A media release from the NEA reminds all governors, Sefolu, Alkalulu and councillors that a presidential directive has been issued requiring all of them to organize and coordinate the national cleanup exercise in both urban and rural communities within the areas throughout the country. The National Environment Agency also solicits the support, cooperation and the active participation of all. You can also follow that story and other GRTS programs live on our website at www.grts.gm. There you can also monitor GRTS Radio Live. From there we take our first break. We'll be right back.
It is a story of a land, of a people, where communication has been our song, our drumbeat. We sing with hearts full of joy. We dream of a better future, one that is upon us now. This is who we are. We are close to the heart of the world. We are as old as time. The soul of man began with us. We are Africa.
The violence that rocked Somalia for years is increasing, involving other countries in the Horn of Africa. Troops from neighboring Kenya are pushing deeper into the country, pursuing fighters suspected of killing people in Kenya. The Somali militant group Al-Shabaab is being blamed for a handful of bombings in Nairobi and for kidnapping foreign nationals. Now the military say they want to talk to the Kenyan government. David Mackenzie has been following the story.
Certainly here in Kenya, according to a Kenyan official with very close ties to what is going on with the military in Somalia. The Kenyan troops moved in just under 2 weeks ago into Somalia to take on Al-Shabaab. That official told me that Al-Shabaab has in fact contacted the Kenyan government. He said that they are in some kind of talks, possibly some kind of negotiation. Now it must be said that there are various factions of Al-Shabaab in southern Somalia. It's not clear which faction of the group that is. And what we do know is that the Kenyan military has come up with, again, some pretty difficult conditions with the weather in southern Somalia, heavy rains impeding their progress as they push towards a major town in the south. But while the Kenyan military has been pretty confident that it can take on Al-Shabaab, many analysts worry that this is a big military risk.
Kenyan troops pushing into Somalia, part of a major offensive that took many by surprise. Their stated aim to take Al-Shabaab head-on. The Al-Qaeda-linked militant group has threatened Kenya before, but a recent string of kidnappings here spurred the government into action.
The Al-Shabaab group poses a clear and present danger, not only to Kenya and this region, but to the entire world. We do believe that the fight against terror cannot be won unless the power and the organization of Al-Shabaab is dismantled.
Security analysts say that the incursion is a big risk. They point to recent history. America's infamous Black Hawk Down mission in the 90s, Ethiopia's US-backed invasion, which led to the rise of Al-Shabaab, and the African Union's long and bloody campaign to control Mogadishu.
If there is anything we have learned, in the last couple of decades, is that foreign intervention, especially military intervention, doesn't work in Somalia.
Kenya's military officials say they want to push on to Kismayo, a key stronghold of Al-Shabaab. But the country's largely conventional army is being hampered by heavy rains and Shabaab's ability to melt into the background.
Kenya's key Western allies, the US and the UK, were quick to state that they will not give any assistance to this operation, but France says they will give some help. The decision to attack was the Kenyan government's alone, it seems, but many worry it will make this country less safe, not more.
If the argument for going in is to stop terrorism, the contrary is now the case. Al-Shabaab will now have the pretext to strike Kenya.
A series of grenade attacks this week blamed on Al-Shabaab has the country on edge. But the Kenyan government says it has stepped up security and that they have just one aim in Somalia.
We don't want to go and get stuck in Somalia. When the United States, Ethiopia and others went there, they were trying to support an existing government. Our main objective is just to go in, dismantle the Al-Shabaab and get out. So we have a very clear objective.
To take out Al-Shabaab.
To take out Al-Shabaab.
The government says that the operation should be over in a matter of months. But some fear that Kenya has stepped into a military quagmire that has haunted this continent for decades.
It's bad and about to get a lot worse. Bangkok's governor says flood waters will keep rising in the capital over the next few days, as high as half a meters around the whole city. He says this could soon be submerged. The flooding has already killed over 370 people. CNN Sarah Sidna is in Thai capital.
People quite nervous. What we also saw when we went up with the U.S. military, the Marines and Navy took us up in a helicopter. We saw roads being slowly swallowed by water. We saw from an aerial view the domestic airport, the Don Mueang airport, which has now been closed for a couple of days. That is now seeing more water pushing farther onto the runway. We also passed over areas. Most of the areas that you'd be seeing from the aerial shots in the north of the city are normally dry, and what we saw was just miles and miles, kilometers and kilometers of water. It looked like a lake. As we passed over some of that area, there are factories that we saw, including the Bangkadi Industrial Park, which is a huge production center for Toshiba Corporation. We saw water everywhere. Some of the electronics makers, the car factories, and some showrooms are being surrounded by water or really inundated with water. And we're talking about thousands of factories that are being affected by this, not to mention all of the residents who are having to deal with this. Residents are taking out boats. They're trying to get all their belongings out of the way. And now the Bangkok governor has said, look, we can no longer control these floodwaters. And we're now seeing the result of it right near the Grand Palace, with floodwaters seeping in ever so slowly, but definitely getting higher and higher. Jane?
What's the verdict, Sarah, on how the government's been handling this crisis?
Well, it depends on who you ask. Some people saying they acted too slowly, but a lot of people saying, look, this government just got into office. It's unfortunate for them. It's a difficult time for the Thai people. And, evacuations have been ordered, and there has been an effort made to try to get people to higher ground. And a lot of this is difficult to predict, as you know, with flooding and flood waters. But today, the Prime Minister has said, look, the flooding's coming. It's coming now. It will be in several different parts of the city. We're talking about anywhere from 10 centimeters, which is about 4 inches, Zane, to more than a meter. We're talking about 3 feet in some places. Obviously, people are going to be scared. A lot of people have left. More than 1 million people have evacuated the city. Lots of hotels in places that are high and dry have been booked, and people are just, those who are staying behind, waiting and watching. But can be quite a dangerous situation because it's not rushing in. It is creeping in, but it can be quite difficult to ascertain exactly how high the water is going to get.
Now take a second break. We'll be right back.